Yep, I would. Always. No. Hurtful words. Because they're going to hurt themselves anyway. Much more. They will. You are my joy. Yeah. Well, there you go. Herbert Robert William Hennis here, aka Owen Reed. Go back to my first video, why I have two names. Like, subscribe, and you can understand what I just said then. You know, I've always been into unusual music. Always have. Even as a young guy, there was a caravan park across the lake where I grew up in the middle of nowhere. And one particular year, I was young, and I guess some of you could trace these years. And the father had this, brought this jukebox out, and there was a table tennis table then. So we used to play table tennis, only about 6 of us. Anyway, none of us were any good, but it didn't matter. We're only kids. And they would, the Willis brothers would have 20-cent pieces to put in, and I'd have to save up. I'd have to scab bottles and, you know, get 5 cents for every bottle. Anyway, he got these new music 45s in little records, and all the other guys were older than me, and they were listening to things like, you know, the Beatles and, you know, I Am a Rock, or whatever sorts of music, I don't know. Anyway, he got these two 45s in, and the first one was Speed King by Deep Purple. Yeah. And the other one was a Black Sabbath one. But anyway, so I put my 20 cents in. You got like 3 plays back then, yeah. And I pushed, and the moment that music came out of that thing, I was gone. I was miles ahead of those guys. And so I got into things like, you know, Lou Reed and John Mayall and all sorts of alternative music, Grateful Dead, you know, all sorts of music that wasn't necessarily kind of mainstream, you know, even like Kraftwerk and stuff, you know, right into like techno, weird techno rock. Or whether Hawkwind or bands like this that, you know, and later on was the Dead Kennedys and in my punk era kind of thing. But that was a band called, that's a band called Reindeer Section. And actually, I think it's something like a 27-piece band made up of this supergroup from Ireland. And Son of an Evil Reindeer, You Are My Joy. And for those of you who don't know or may not know, I'll just shut that there. I haven't seen my wife for 23 weeks now, thanks to Gladys shutting Sydney down and locking her down. And I've been down the coast. I got caught down here and they got locked down, and there remained no way for me to get back without having to go through various testing or, you know, all sorts of things hoops that I had to jump through to be able to go back and see her, and I just haven't been able to see her. And, you know, she can't leave, because it's a hot spot, you know. And so it's been really, really, really tough. I don't need any sympathy. I'm just, you know, I mean, I guess as you get older, you kind of, you don't have that youthful infatuation, but you just love each other. And so the missing is there, and it's a different depth. It's a different kind of, it's not like that youthful infatuation, but it's more of a, I think it's more, if you really wanted to put it somehow, I think it's more of a, like a long hurt. It just stays there under the surface, you know, and it makes you, yeah, anyway, I won't say any more about that. Don't cry. Can't have that. I'm a bloke after all. Anyway, I've been in these conversations with people. I can't tell you. I wish to God I could just ignore them and just get away with it. Probably maybe 10 people on the go. And some of them are great. They're really after information, and they're willing to listen and want to, you know, get information that they may not be able to necessarily find. And then there's those people who all they want to do is debate you. They just want to debate you. And then they go and find arguments to negate whatever you may say to them. But the arguments they find are only what they find on Google or through Google or whatever might be the case. And we know, and this is what I was getting to, there's only 2 companies in the world. I don't know if you know any of this, and a lot of you do, and some of you have seen the videos, and I can send them to you if you want to know. There's only 2 companies in the world, just 2. These things are mega companies, right? And there's plenty of people out there who've done really fabulous videos on the complexity of these particular companies. And I'm not about to go into it and launch into it. Suffice to say that if you go into Yahoo Finance, you can go to the search bar and you can search any company you like. I don't care what it is. I really don't care. Alibaba, Microsoft, Amazon, whatever. You just search these companies and look for the major shareholders or the owners. And you'll see it's only 2 companies. Well, there's kind of 3, but really just 2. One's an offshoot of a company. And it's BlackRock and Vanguard. They're the 2 companies. There's another 2 companies, I think, that are offshoots of those. Station Street or something, whatever. But they're the 2 major companies, owned by 6 families. And they own 95% of the world's media. And yes, they own Google. Yes, they own Microsoft. Yes, they own Amazon. Yes, they own everything. They own everything. $30 trillion in assets alone. These companies are massive. They own the Federal Reserve banks. They own the Federal Reserve banks. There's one in nearly every country around the world. You think the Australian Reserve Bank is Australian owned? No, it's not. You think the US Reserve Bank is US owned? No, it's not. They're not. And I'm not about to go into who owns them, and I'm not talking about the Vatican and talking to you about the bloody royal family in England. I'm not going to get into that. It's a rabbit warren. And trust me, I'm well aware of it. But here's the thing that I wanted to say about that. When you get into debates with people and discussions with people, I'm not going to say arguments, and that's the only fallback. You need to understand that's all they're ever going to do. Anything you try to show them, any person you try to show them, any information you try to give them, will already have a negated argument, a refuted argument, ready to go. Because that's what these companies are paid to do. They're paid millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, like Reuters, who's owned by BlackRock Vanguard, to have teams who've gone through every possible scenario you can throw up. And they're working around the clock, 24/7. Whenever any new research comes out, whenever any doctor says anything, they can discredit that doctor, they can discredit the research, they can discredit your search, they can discredit any information you put up, any article you put up, they can discredit it. And the object is to continue to discredit this as long as they can, Keep it going, keep the momentum going. Just keep it going. And in the end, they'll get their rate, which the WEF has set, which is 80% jabbed. That's the rate they've set. They'll get that round the world. And if they keep it going long enough, they'll get what we know as the next pandemic. They'll get that coming along, which is the pandemic of the jab. We understand how this works. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's already beginning, happening in other countries. And even where it's happening, they've got information ready to discredit that. So the thousands and thousands of doctors, scientists, virologists, immunologists, professors, you name it, that we all know, that we subscribe to, whether they're Australian or whether they're in the UK or Europe or whether they're in the USA or wherever they are. Every single one of those has already been smeared, debunked, ridiculed, not necessarily their message, but most certainly their lives, their personage, who they are, their abilities, their credentials, everything questioned, pulled apart and smeared. You can find anything you want. I can debunk anybody any one of these ones that I go and watch, say like, for argument's sake, Robert Malone or Dr. Cole or Judy Mikovits or whatever, and there's thousands of them. If I can go and Google any of those people, I guarantee there'll be articles smearing them. And the thousands and thousands of research papers they put out, videos they put out over the years, over the decades, are all gone. They're all gone. They've been censored and removed. So don't get into these debates with people. It takes a lot of energy, takes a lot of time, and I'm a great one to talk over this. But I'm slowly coming to the realisation that you can't win this. It's very, very difficult to actually, in a sense, win. There's no winner in this. We all think we're doing the right thing. One of them thinks that the government is cool and fine and has no agenda and is just doing the best it can do to help the country in this massive pandemic of where nearly 100 people have died in 2 years. Yeah, I'll put that out there. About 100 people. The rest have all died in aged care facilities or have been over 78 years old and had comorbidities, and of the others, most of them have been vaccinated. But they're hiding everything else, and we're on the other side. We're going, well, tell us this. Now, we've got a great situation now. Today in Victoria, as we all know, Dan Andrews lost his court case to have the information that was requested by Freedom of Information to be quashed. That is, the information regarding that he supposedly used to set the agenda for lockdowns. And Melbourne is the most communist country outside of China. It is locked down to the max. It has been a brutal regime down there, a veritable dictatorship. Now, Scott Morrison, what you may know, the senator from South Australia, Rex Parker, requested a Freedom of Information on the Premier's COVID cabinet, their emergency COVID cabinet that Scott Morrison PM formed. Now, he requested a Freedom of Information months and months and months ago for all the details of the COVID cabinet meetings so he could find out and reveal to the public and understand why they made the decisions they made, and in the pattern that they made them state by state by state by state all the time. Free lock, free lock, free lock, free lock, over and over and over. Now, Scott Morrison, using taxpayers' money and a boot full of barristers, went to court against that senator, Rex Parker from South Australia, and Morrison lost because he claimed, his team of barristers, $5,000 a bloody minute, claimed that the COVID cabinet was covered under the Australian Secrecies Act. Now, the presiding magistrate who oversaw that case said, no, it's not. Otherwise, you could just have anything and say it's under the bloody Secrecy Act. And he then issued a release order for the Freedom of Information Act, under the Freedom of Information Act, for that information to be given to Senator Rex Parker. Now, Rex Parker has come out the other day and said, you know what's happened? Scott Morrison, behind the scenes, is changing legislation and has got it ready to go, which will bypass that and then put the COVID cabinet back under the Australian Secrecies Act so that he doesn't have to reveal his information to you, not to Senator Rex Parker, to you, the public, because he knows if you get this information, there's a number of things you'll know. One of them is that they banned the two most effective precursors against SARS-CoV-2, which were hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, prior to declaring a pandemic. Now, what did they know? Now, that was revealed on the Tucker Carlson show, the highest rating current affairs show in American history. He revealed that and said, why on earth? How? Under what rule? Under what knowledge did the Australian government ban these two precursors prior to declaring a pandemic? So they don't work when they didn't even know there was a pandemic. They hadn't even declared one. Yet they were already banning this and setting the doctors up that they were going to face $10,000 fines if they issued ivermectin or HCQ for the treatment of SARS-CoV-2. Now, it's coming out over and over and over now that these two drugs are highly effective, but better still, and this is where it gets really murky. Murky. The big pharmaceutical company, Merck, is now going to release a wonder drug, which has proven highly successful in the treatment of SARS-CoV-2 in trials. And you won't guess what it is. Oh, you did. It's ivermectin. Slightly different ingredient list, so they can patent it, because there's no patent on ivermectin. There's no patent on hydroxychloroquine. Those patents ran out. Anybody can make it. Anybody. So Merck's issuing now this wonder drug based on ivermectin, which has a slight change in the ingredients, which they've now patented. The previous ones were about 10 cents, 20 cents a dose. These ones are $800 a course, and the government's already ordered some. Right? Already ordered it at $800 a pop. Now, here's a question I'm going to leave you with, and this is what you really need to think about. Right? Right now, the government's pork barreling, because we've got elections coming up next year. They are handing out millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars to various organisations around Australia in grants. A lot of minority groups, a lot of religious groups, right? A lot of welfare groups are all getting these donations. These grants are suddenly being given to them in massive amounts. Now, this is on top of payments, lack of tax, shutdowns, lockdowns. You need to understand this, and you need to ask yourself the question, where is the government getting the money from? We're now almost $3 trillion in debt, getting set for the Great Reset. Where is the money coming from to cover everything? Where is the government getting the money? When you look at that and you understand that, then some more of the picture becomes a little clearer. Till next time, go check out the reindeer section. It's bucketing here, by the way. It's been absolutely torrential on the south coast. And we'll catch up with you on the flip side. Love and peace. Stay tuned.